There are places where you can see from afar that time is gnawing away at them inch by inch, and Excalibur seems to be entering that moment. Once considered the popular entertainment marvel of Vegas, where millions of visitors flocked each year to experience a dazzling fairy tale version in the desert, this iconic symbol is now facing the risk of being erased from the map. And ironically, it is the constant transformation of this city that is making Excalibur the next sacrifice in the ruthless evolutionary cycle of Las Vegas. Because Vegas today no longer chases wild dreams built with watchtowers, drawbridges, or suits of armor. Instead, the city is hurtling toward billion-dollar projects, luxurious, sleek complexes catering to a customer base with unprecedented spending power. In that race for money, mid-range casinos like Excalibur have become an outdated piece, like a relic of a time when Vegas considered mass entertainment a priority. In today's video, we'll delve into the story behind these rumors, exploring what truly awaits Excalibur and what Vegas will sacrifice for its next transformation. If you've driven south along the Las Vegas Strip in recent years, Excalibur still stands out like a medieval castle in the desert. But as you get closer, the image is no longer intact. The paint is faded, the lights are dimming, and the entire resort looks like it's been frozen in a time capsule from 1990. And at some point in your mind, you'll likely wonder, what caused a castle that was once the dream of millions of tourists to fade into oblivion like this? Before we seek answers to that slow decline, perhaps we need to step into a time machine together and go back to 1990, when Excalibur had just opened and was still a true paradise for ordinary people. In 1990, this resort was not just a new casino. It's a real phenomenon. The whole family drove across America to see it. Children like it. Adults like it. For many years, this was one of the strongest money-making machines in Las Vegas. Behind that fairy tale appearance lies a very sober business decision. With a cost of approximately $290 million, Excalibur was built as a family-friendly option. A stark contrast to the adult playground model that was the default image of Vegas at the time. Beneath the fairy tale facade, this business decision is incredibly effective. Over 4,000 rooms, nearly 100,000 SQFT of casino floor, affordable prices, all of which make Excalibur one of the most popular hotel casinos on the Strip. The room is cheap, epic game, and the theme is built like a miniature film set. That was also the period when Vegas raced to build a fantasy world. The Luxor Hotel and Casino erected a pyramid. New York Hotel and Casino brings an entire miniature New York skyline to the desert. MGM Grand Las Vegas boasts a giant lion statue that's bigger than a house. Excalibur sits right in that current, a testament that Vegas isn't just for adults or the wealthy, but for everyone. As long as you're willing to drive there and let yourself believe in the story each resort is telling. It was a truly fantasy era, when Vegas became fun for everyone. From the child seeing the castle tower for the first time, to the parents who dared to step into a casino for the first time. In a city where constant reinvention is vital, where most themed hotels are gradually giving way to a cold, modern aesthetic, Excalibur has survived as a rare exception. The tall towers with fairy tale architecture and Arthurian style remain a part of the visual identity of modern Las Vegas to this day. While many other icons have had their facades changed, interiors renovated, and even their souls altered, Excalibur stubbornly retains the form of that era, as if refusing to believe its time has passed. But by 2025, as the Vegas tourism industry struggled and visitor demand shifted dramatically, that magic seemed to have faded. The model that once brought success to Excalibur, cheap, crowded, fantasy-themed, is no longer suitable for the current context. And behind that multicolored castle wall, the resort was entering its own countdown on the brink of collapse. Excalibur was once a phenomenon when it appeared in 1990. But the discount, crowds, fantasy theme model that once made it successful is no longer suitable for how Las Vegas operates in the new era. The city has shifted dramatically, from colourful themed resorts to an era of corporate luxury where glass towers, minimalist spaces, and expensive experiences are prioritised over anything that smacks of mass entertainment. In that picture, the customer groups that once brought life to Excalibur, road-tripping families, casual gamers, young couples looking for fun on a budget, were gradually no longer part of MGM's long-term plans. Although the hotel remains fully booked weekly due to its accessible price point, this volume of guests does not generate sufficient spending to meet the revenue expectations of a corporation like MGM Resorts International. The budget room plus low-limit gaming model makes Excalibur's revenue per guest significantly lower than flagship properties like Bellagio, Aria, or MGM Grand, which generate income from high-end retail, fine dining, VIP rooms, or business travelers. MGM is pursuing the goal of raising the average room rate to over $200 per night, while Excalibur primarily operates around $79. This discrepancy makes this asset misaligned with the portfolio the corporation wants to shape. Even internally, many features of Excalibur were simplified. The arcade area was reduced in size and less impressive. Many medieval decorative details were removed, and the dining and service areas gradually lost their theatrical quality. This cutback saves costs, but at the same time makes the overall experience less appealing to a new generation of guests who are accustomed to modernity and convenience. Meanwhile, while other MGM properties were heavily invested in for luxury upgrades, Excalibur was maintained at a just enough to operate level, clean, bright, and fully booked, but without budget priority for renovation or image renewal. This is a familiar operational model in the casino industry, often appearing when an asset is retained as a temporary measure before being redeveloped or replaced. In MGM's brand ecosystem, Bellagio, Aria, Vdara, and MGM Grand are clearly positioned in the luxury segment, and Excalibur became an out-of-place piece, a legacy of the 90s era, while the entire system was moving toward modern luxury. Marketing also reflects this. Budgets and attention are focused on more luxurious properties, leaving Excalibur behind not because of poor management, but because the brand strategy has changed. According to the review journal's description, Excalibur is like an undervalued child, too old to invest heavily, but also too crowded to close. This asset is therefore in a state of limbo. It still generates stable cash flow, but is no longer on the corporation's future growth trajectory. A castle that once led now resembles a temporary stop, awaiting the day it will be decided whether it will be renovated or completely replaced. There are buildings that don't collapse because of weak concrete, but because the times around them have changed too quickly. Excalibur is one of them. This castle has reached a point where a major reinvestment is essential to remain competitive, but in reality, that process has never happened. And when a 34-year-old structure has to operate without significant upgrades, the consequences begin to become apparent at every level of the structure. Excalibur is facing a series of issues. An increasingly expensive HVAC system, outdated plumbing, elevators needing modernization, and an electrical system that is outdated compared to the needs of a modern resort. Themed architecture, with countless intricate details designed to create a fairy tale castle effect, results in significantly higher maintenance costs compared to modern buildings with minimalist designs. Inside, the old infrastructure no longer meets today's technological standards and customer experience expectations. This raises a question that any manager must answer. Is it still reasonable to continue repairing a structure that is this old? Or should we consider replacing it with a completely new, higher performance project? In recent years, major overhauls, once expected to usher in a new era for Excalibur, have been repeatedly delayed. The reason stems from the unfavorable financial context and the losses MGM has suffered in recent events. When investors are cautious, costs rise and risks increase, overhaul plans are often pushed to the bottom of the priority list. That's why Excalibur is in a state of limbo. It's not being invested in for proper restoration, but it's also not being taken out of service. This castle was forced to choose between continuing to exist in its old form or waiting for another time, when all conditions converged, to make a larger replacement decision. A decision that Las Vegas has made with many iconic landmarks before, as old structures make way for new ambitions. Excalibur is located in one of the most strategic positions on the South Strip, sandwiched between New York, and Mandalay Bay, and with direct access to T-Mobile Arena, one of the busiest event venues in Las Vegas today. With a huge number of visitors passing through each day, the land occupied by Excalibur has extremely high commercial value, ranking among the most expensive along the Strip. Therefore, in the context of Las Vegas strongly shifting toward developing the high-end segment, is it still reasonable to place a low-cost model in such a strategic location? That prime location, however, became a problem for Excalibur. Such a prime piece of land is expected to generate significant revenue, from luxury rooms and services and high-end retail to highly profitable entertainment activities. However, Excalibur, with its value resort model and low prices, is considered to be underutilizing the economic potential of the area. In the eyes of planners, this castle is like a project locked at a low profit level, while its location itself offers much greater profit potential if redeveloped. That pressure is even more evident when looking at the overall South Strip. The area surrounding Excalibur has been continuously invested in over the years with multi-billion-dollar investments. New developments, commercial areas, and especially the rise of the sports and entertainment complex around T-Mobile Arena have completely changed the operational standards of this entire area. An area once considered the working-class gateway to the Strip is now becoming the focus of a high-end development strategy. In that new picture, an inexpensive model like the Excalibur is placed in opposition, like an outdated piece in a region operating at a different class. Beside that, the very structure of Excalibur also limits its ability to excavate soil. The building's sprawling scale, themed design with multiple towers and decorative details, and low construction density prevent it from utilizing height and area according to the standards of new projects. Modern resorts are built straight up into the sky, optimizing every square foot, while Excalibur is stuck in its sprawling 1990s structure. In a place where every inch of land can generate millions of dollars in revenue annually, that limitation becomes a clear burden. However, demolishing a large resort is not a decision that can be made overnight. The cost of demolition and reconstruction is a huge figure, not to mention the long construction time, which significantly disrupts revenue. Therefore, this strategy is only considered when conditions truly converge. Cash flow is strong enough, the market is favorable, and there is strategic support from the entire management system. In the current situation, Excalibur still stands there, a medieval-style castle amidst an area entering a new era. But this very valuable location makes its future more precarious. An old icon is occupying a piece of land that modern Las Vegas wants to exploit in a completely different way. When we look at the journey of Excalibur, we don't just see the story of an old castle, but also the clear transformation of Las Vegas itself. Themed resorts that have existed for decades, the soul of a fun-for-everyone Vegas, are gradually being changed or eliminated. This didn't happen overnight, but through the gradual disappearance of small colour palettes. Treasure Island completely dropped its pirate show that once attracted millions. Luxor minimized its Egyptian elements. The pyramids are now mostly shells, and their spirit is no longer as strong as before. and MGM Grand eliminated the lion habitat, a highlight that once drew families from across the United States. These changes are making the Strip increasingly homogeneous, with a strong focus on high-end imagery, minimalist design, and modern technology. This shift isn't just coming from the resorts, it's also fueled by ambitious new projects like Allegiant Stadium and Sphere. These two giant entertainment and sports icons have changed visitor behavior, shifting consumer demand toward high-value experiences, from show tickets to ancillary services. The city, once known for serving all classes, is now pivoting to cater to high-spending global travelers who are willing to spend hundreds, even thousands of USD for a weekend. That makes Las Vegas different from the past. If Vegas used to have room for everyone, from California workers driving over every weekend to families seeking an affordable yet memorable vacation, now space for low-budget groups is increasingly scarce. Low-value assets like Excalibur still exist, but are no longer part of the long-term development goals of Strip-operating corporations. They were kept because they filled gaps on the map, but they are no longer considered the future of the city. In the bigger picture, the model that once brought joy to everyone is significantly shrinking in its role. Today's Las Vegas is no longer a place that creates family-friendly fantasy worlds like it did in the 1990s, but rather a place that maximizes profits on every square foot of land. The trajectory of Excalibur, from a mass-market icon to an outdated building, accurately reflects the trajectory of Vegas itself, moving beyond its middle-class friendly phase toward a more luxurious, expensive, and globally oriented one. Against that backdrop, the decline of Excalibur is not just the failure of a themed resort, but a testament to a Vegas undergoing a fundamental transformation. The city continues to develop, but the more it develops, the more apparent the gap becomes between the past, which was for everyone, and the present, which is for the few. And nowhere is this more evident than in the fading castle itself on the South Strip. There are some structures whose vitality is not measured by the number of floors or rooms, but by the small stories that visitors leave behind after each trip. Excalibur is a prime example. Looking at thousands of customer reviews over the years, it's easy to see a truth that the castle itself probably doesn't want to face. The rooms are old, the casino space feels outdated, and the medieval theme, once a source of pride, no longer impresses younger generations of guests. With this new group of customers, Excalibur is no longer a unique symbol, but merely a nostalgic decor that doesn't evoke any memorable emotions or memories. What was once Excalibur's greatest strength, the Arthurian theme, has now become an invisible barrier. Adults in the Vegas era of the 1990s were accustomed to the dazzling lights of themed resorts and understood the entertainment value of a vivid fantasy world. But the younger generation doesn't have that foundation of memory. They grew up in the age of technological experiences, of modern minimalism, of high-end resorts. For them, the image of the colourful castle doesn't hold nostalgic meaning, nor does it have the power to create the wow feeling it did when Excalibur first appeared. Therefore, Excalibur has become a first-time stay for many tourists today. Cheap, easy to book, suitable for a first trip to Vegas, but rarely chosen for subsequent visits. This is a natural but disadvantageous cycle. Those who have stayed at Excalibur once often upgrade to better resorts as soon as their budget allows, from Luxor, New York, Planet Hollywood to MGM's higher-end properties. With this trend, engagement levels become very low, making it almost impossible to build loyalty, especially in the increasingly competitive Vegas landscape where customers have many new options. Meanwhile, promotional activities for Excalibur have also been significantly scaled back. MGM, with a focus on expanding its luxury segment, shifted its marketing budget to strategically align properties where revenue per customer was significantly higher. Excalibur was therefore only maintained at a level sufficient to fill rooms and was no longer prioritized in media or major advertising campaigns. As attention shifts to more upscale options, the medieval-style castle becomes a name outside the spotlight of the Strip. These changes, upon closer examination, reflect a larger truth: the widening gap between the expectations of modern guests and Excalibur's old operating model. In an era where people expect higher levels of convenience, deeper thematic investment, or more overt luxury, Excalibur, with its budget-friendly pricing and sprawling 1990s architecture, is unlikely to keep up. The factors that once made it attractive are no longer compatible with the market. The outdated structure makes it increasingly out of place in a city that is being rebuilt in a more modern, orderly, and luxurious way than ever before. And, finally, what keeps Excalibur in the public memory isn't its current image, but the stories of visitors who experienced it at its peak. They remembered the distinctive noise of the arcade, the lights emanating from the colourful towers, and the feeling of stepping into another world, something Excalibur did very well in its first 2 decades. But memories, no matter how beautiful, still can't change the fact that the new generation of guests doesn't see in Excalibur what previous generations once saw. For them, Excalibur is an old hotel in a city that is changing too quickly. And in that disharmony, we clearly see a future where memories might last a very long time, but the castle is uncertain. Currently, there are no official plans to close or demolish Excalibur. On paper, it still works normally, but the surrounding signals point to a more cautious reality. Excalibur is being viewed as a temporary asset, kept on the Strip to fill space until market conditions are favourable for a larger decision. The existence of Excalibur at this point relies heavily on the need for a budget-friendly option amidst rising citywide room rates. As Vegas increasingly caters to the high-end market, low-cost resorts like Excalibur still have a place simply because they meet the needs of guests who are still looking for affordable prices. But being needed doesn't mean being prioritized, and surviving doesn't mean succeeding. The old model, cheap, fantasy theme, limited services, no longer generates high value according to the new development strategy. As the Strip is being rebuilt with a focus on luxury, high performance, and maximizing profit per square foot of land, Excalibur cannot compete in terms of operating value. This makes its future almost entirely dependent on financial and market conditions. When the right time comes, when regional planning is synchronized, Excalibur could be completely replaced by a new project that generates greater profits. In that context, nostalgia, however strong, is not enough to change the development cycle of Las Vegas. The Strip has seen many icons disappear, not because they weren't loved, but because the land value far exceeded the value the building itself could generate. Excalibur, despite its place in the memories of many visitors, is no exception to this rule. Does the value of the land it's on far exceed its current operational value? If the answer is yes, and the financial context allows, then the future of this castle may have been decided before any official announcement was made. Because on the Strip, the countdown seconds often begin long before the first sign appears in the public eye. Excalibur has stood tall on the Strip for over 3 decades, witnessing Las Vegas change with every breath of the times. From a castle that once brought joy to every family, to an icon struggling to find its place in an increasingly expensive and luxury-oriented city. Its journey perfectly reflects how Vegas is evolving. Less colourful, more practical, and with less space for the middle class that was once the heart of this city. Perhaps Excalibur will still be standing there for a few more years. It's also possible that one day that castle will disappear in silence, replaced by a new structure, taller, more modern, and more profitable. But no matter what the future holds, the story of Excalibur remains a reminder that every symbol, no matter how grand, must face the unavoidable question: is the value of memory enough to hold something back, when the future is demanding something else? Do you think Excalibur deserves to be reborn, or has Vegas's cycle of development gone too far to retain its old icons? Is the partial dismantling of the past a necessary price for Las Vegas to continue moving forward? And if the Strip is only filled with luxurious towers, with no room for the more down-to-earth models of the past, will it still be the Las Vegas you once knew? If this story brings back any memories of Excalibur, old Las Vegas, or places that have disappeared from your life, please leave a comment. Press like if you find the video helpful. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories about Vegas and the America that is changing every day. And if you know anyone who has a connection to Vegas, don't hesitate to share this video with them. Sometimes, just a story is enough to keep a piece of memory from being lost. This video is based on public information sources, synthesized opinions, and objective analysis. It does not make any absolute statements about MGM's future plans or the official fate of Excalibur. All predictions or assessments are for informational purposes only. They do not represent official announcements, business decision, or internal information of any corporation.